Welcome today to our session, our seminar for today. Today we have I have a rebooting of the sound. What is the reason? So sorry. Claudia, do you know what Lorena, do you know what is happening?
No.
Probably we have to turn off our microphones in order to not to have echo.
Yeah, but it's not. Is I hear my own voice all time with the delay. I don't know why.
We can go out and enter again, maybe, and maybe to refresh.
No. I think it's another thing. Okay. I will just start again. Maybe. Okay. So I will start directly, right? Okay. Here we go. Okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for being today to our guest and our participants, and as well all the students that are watching us through the YouTube channel. Welcome to this seminar. My name is Vicente Sandoval. I'm a researcher here in the Freie Universität Berlin in Germany. And today I'm giving you the welcome to our seminar titled Urban Disaster Risk Governance in Latin America and the Caribbean. This is an introduction to collective intelligence and disasters. It's a conversation, a roundtable. And well, first telling you that, well, I'm part of a team that is running a project where all these seminars, this is our second seminar of a project funded by the Berlin University Alliance, which combine 3 universities in Berlin, but we are connected also with another university in Havana. This project called International Network for Collective Intelligences in Latin America and the Caribbean. Well, it's supposedly I have to introduce myself. Basically, what I already say, I'm visiting postdoctoral researcher here in the Disaster Research Unit in the Freie Universität Berlin. I'm also work as a consultant in urban disaster risk governance for European Union, USAID in Latin America and the Caribbean, and other universities. And I mainly work in the academia, developing courses and doing applied and other kind of research and consultant activities. And first of all, it's very important to thank to our partners in this project. I want to welcome and thanks to ZooHaus, also the Institute of Architektur in the Technische Universität Berlin, as well as the Disaster Research Unit in the Freie Universität Berlin, also the Technical University in La Habana, Cuba, CUJAE, as well the Cuban Art Factory, which is represented by one of our guests today. And a special thanks to our sponsor, the sponsors of our project and also of this seminar. I'm talking about the Berlin University Alliance, CLIC, Cuba, Europe. I also want to thank especially to the European Union, who is also participating through the sponsorship, and also the Embajada of the Embassy of Spain in Cuba. The program for today, we have 3 guests for today. They came from different parts of well, between Europe and Latin America and the Caribbean. First, our first part of the seminar will be I will do a short introduction to the topic of urban disaster risk governance in the LAC region, which is basically based in my work and also the work from other colleagues which I've been collaborating. And then Claudia lez-Muzzio from Chile will be talking about these emergent responses to disasters. I have been working close with Claudia lez-Muzzio in the last 5 or more years. Then we have our guest, Nguyen Rodriguez Barrera from Cuba, from the Cuban Art Factory, and also CUJAE University. Finally, it would be Durant Vidal. She is speaking us from Lima, but she has been also working in projects and base projects in Europe, in Spain mainly, as well. And then we are going to finish to end up, try to write everything up in an open conversation when we are going to receive questions from you that you can make this question to, you can ask this question through the YouTube channel. This will be provided by Nguyen, Rodriguez Barrera, and Christina. So I will just pass to our short introduction, then I'm going to introduce our guests in more detail, one by one. Okay, the topic of governance, and specifically the urban disaster risk governance, as you probably already hear it's very complex for many reasons. Governance is this process of decision making, and this process of decision making in this case in the urban governance, for instance, in the city, it means that involve a multiplicity of actors that came from different groups like public, private, also civil society, and others. Also, we will consider ideas or movements as actors within this process of decision making. Naturally, what you could come to your mind is that you see an authority or a politician signing a document, a municipal ordinances, and we can consider this like a decision making. But this is the last part of a long process through which different ideas, influences, power relations are established, and in different way influence this decision making. In this case, for instance, in a city, who decide about the development, which part of the cities will be developed, what kind of energy, what kind of transportation, and so on and so forth. So there are different groups and also tensions, and you will see conflict and alliances. All these relationships show the governance of, in the case of urban governance of a city, very complex in nature. And when we talk about urban disaster risk governance, we are referring specifically to this set of actors and processes, interrelationships related to the disasters risk management cycle. Somehow, it's not only the disaster risk management cycle, which is presented here in the circle. Just to introduce you this as well, especially for the student from Cuba and the technical university of Berlin, is that a disaster, well, it takes a moment in a moment in space and time with an impact, a hazard impact a region or neighborhood or a city as a whole. And then this triggered a sort of a long set of responses, emergency management with different actors involved in this process, from the firefighters to the local authorities. Maybe there are also humanitarian actors as well. And then let's move to another phases. Then at some point in the middle, there is a reconstruction, which involves other kind of actors. The city council, it has, like we will see with cases from Claudia and on other places, you will see that other kind of actors are involved, like more in the political sense, more in the economic sense, are involved, are participated, and are influencing these processes. Then we have this process of prevention and preparedness. So until another event hits these spaces. And basically, we are saying that these events are triggered by an extreme event, but all the risk, the vulnerability, who take the decisions where we are going to develop, if we are not, we are going to construct a dam or not, what influence the level of vulnerability is finally a social, political, and sometimes also cultural decision, and or based in cultural, social, political, and economic factors. So disasters are not natural in that sense. They never are natural. The natural event just comes triggered. And most of these processes of governance are related to maldevelopment, which is a fail or a kind of development that basically trigger or develop in our processes of development. Sorry, and which all basically create disaster risks in general, depending of each case. In the case of Latin America and the Caribbean, I want to just highlight the important thing that we need to consider when we talk about our cities is that is the second most disaster-prone region in the world that is related to the hazard that we found in our region, but also to the level of vulnerability, which is nothing natural, is because our development path and our decisions related closely to governance. Floods are the most common disaster in the region. Just between 2000 and 2019, there were more than 150 million affected people. And also important for the case of Cuba is also the number of hurricanes and category 5 hurricanes in the region are getting higher and higher, also exacerbated by the climate change. And this also has impact in our cities, especially in a group of people that I have been investigating, working closely in recent years about the informal and precarious settlements. Normally they refer to informal settlements, but I would like to highlight the point of precarious, because it's not only that come to our mind about informality, it's not only a legal thing. Living in informal settlements oftenly refer to lacking of access to all kind of urban services like health facilities, transportation, public transportation, education, and also there is a lack of presence of the state in this neighborhood. Can be translated like naturally in health and education and so on, but also in for instance in presence of police in police in these places, which drives to these communities group to govern themselves in these spaces, to create governance mechanism to deal with the conflict, with the tensions, with that could be related to crime organizations, but also the problem of safety, security, related to risks, like in this picture from Lima. So the situation in Latin America and the Caribbean is very complex in that sense. I just want to bring some figures of the many that are around our region, which is related to, of course, the informal settlements. This is not all the countries of the Latin America and the Caribbean, but there are many of them, and you will see. Basically, also I highlight the case of Cuba. Is there is two extreme realities, or two groups that are apart in the region. There are groups like countries like Uruguay, Costa Rica, Chile, and another group like Bolivia, Jamaica, Guatemala, Honduras, in which the informality and particularly the precariousness is very relevant in these cities, which when it's combined with a hazard or with an extreme event, trigger very difficult situations that not always appear in the newspapers, like a disaster, but it's an everyday disaster like somehow to say. Here I just bring two pictures that I took, one in Medellin and also in Port-de-Paix in Haiti, which are not only at the housing level, but also at the built environment, the neighborhood level. And in the two last columns of this table, you see the deprivations are commonly defined by the United UN Habitat. All the countries come together and say, well, how we are going to define informality or informal settlement? Well, they decide 5 deprivations that define informal settlement that are related to precariousness. In this case, we only pick 2 because what the indicator says that you need at least 2 of these deprivations to consider a settlement or a housing informal settlement with precarious conditions. We have the lack of piped water, or also it's connected to potable water, and also lack of sewage connection or sanitation. The other 3 are living in sufficient living area for living that is not overcrowded. This also, we don't have that indicator because it's more difficult to get it. It's very the one that we have is very high in our cities in Latin America, especially in informal settlements. Also, is the quality and the durable of housing materials that like you see in the picture. It's a big issue in countries like Chile, where you see, for instance, a relatively low number of informal settlements. If we look at the quality of the materials, of housing material, we will enter to a larger figure, like the Techo, the NGO that has been working very, very deep in these issues in Chile, but also in other parts of Latin America and the Caribbean. They say that in Chile, in reality, we have around 9% of informal settlement of the population. That is almost 1 of every 10 housing in Chile, which is pretty high, considered and alarming somehow, considered that Chile is in the path of a developed country in the region, or with good indicators. And finally, the other deprivation is tenure security. I mean, the security of land rights and land title, which is awfully connected to this informality about the legal status of something. So informal settlements is not only a legal status. It's, in my opinion, is more related to this precariousness And the precariousness of these buildings or these settlements is not only physical in the sense of housing and also the neighborhood and the infrastructure, but also they have a serious limitation with access to long-term source of income, job opportunities, access to power institutions, and so on and so forth. It's very complex, and all this combined with a hazard make the things more and more complicated. And this is our reality in Latin America and the Caribbean. Every time we have a difficult moment with disaster, when hazard, particularly the most common are the urban floods, hurricane, but also earthquake, volcanic eruptions, fires, ultimately exacerbated as well by climate change and landslides. And this is the last slide. I just want to show you a model that is very commonly used in our research area to point out, to illustrate how the risk is constructed and this can work in not only at the urban settings in cities in Latin America and the Caribbean, but in other contexts as well. So basically what it says is that to have risk, you need a combination of vulnerability and a hazard. A hazard is the natural. It could be also a non-natural event, but it normally came from nature. But to take place this risk and finally a disaster, you need, in my opinion, this is determinant. You need two levels of vulnerability. Vulnerability means basically this fragility, this susceptibility to be affected, and this is determined by many factors. One of them are the unsafe conditions. Living, for instance, in a hazardous location, in an informal settlement, lacking health, access to health, education, and so on and so forth, make us vulnerable, the people that we live there. And also the poor building standards and enforcement. I mean, the lack of not only the seismic standard codes, but also the enforcement, the capacity of local governments to enforce these standards in the construction of the city, in the development of the city. The lacking of this is naturally a vulnerability. Also, this is connected to precarious development in general. All of this came from our analysis from the Latin American and the Caribbean region. Precarious development in urban, in health, in education, and in the financial sector as well, because Latin America, for instance, also lack of financial mechanism of risk transfer. I mean, if I don't want to enter in what is risk transfer, but we don't have mechanism like in United States or also in the European Union to help between countries. And there are some countries that are more advanced in this financial risk transfer, but other not, and that makes the situation very complicated to help each other and to cope with the disaster impact. And this is connected to what the model tells us, is that these unsafe conditions are just the materialized part of vulnerability, something that you can see more or less, the precariousness of the building materials and so on, and the informal settlement. But they are connected to dynamic pressures and finally to root causes, the root causes of these unsafe conditions. Dynamic pressures are those that translate these root causes into the unsafe conditions. And we have serious problems in Latin America and the Caribbean connected to environmental degradation. Environmental degradation connected to our extractivist neoliberal regimes in our countries that preserve the exploitation of natural resources over everything, more or less, and impacting not only the environment, but also the surrounding communities, especially the indigenous communities. And this has been happening for so long. And this triggered to and this naturally this has effect, and we see it in our vulnerability conditions, our unsafe conditions. There are others mentioned by other authors as a root cause. It's also this power relationship that we have, the elite in our countries, they have with especially the indigenous group, but also with different classes. The class relationship in our countries is very complicated and difficult. And this came from the colonial and post-colonial processes. And of course, there are many other reasons, but we have serious problems with that, also linked to poor governance. Corruption is a big issue as well. Every time you see an informal settlement or a building is get the permit to develop in a floodplain or in a skirt of a hill that that probably the studies are there showing that sooner or later you will have a flood or you will have a landslide. And despite that, because corruption, people end living there, or because nobody say nothing as well. So those are the issues that we are facing in our region, and the hazard is just the last ingredient of this recipe. By the time the hazard happens, heavy rain or earthquake, you need these unsafe conditions already in place. And this is the reason that we work very hard to try to push our actions to disaster risk reductions, actions and mechanisms to the previous stages of this. And with that, I finish. I know it's very brief, but if you have any question, we can discuss it later. And I hope this is working for you. I want to finish my presentation. And now I'm going to give the microphone to Claudia González-Muzzio. Lorena, if you can put the cortinilla, would be great. I'm going to Okay, Claudia González-Muzzio is an architect from the Pontificia Catholic University in Chile, and she holds a diploma in environmental law at the same university and a Master of Science in Environmental Sciences and Society at the award in the University College London, UCL. She has specialized in territorial planning and urbanism, risk management, and cultural heritage. In relation to risk and disasters, she has developed studies on vulnerability to natural hazards in several urban areas in Chile and other places, as well as contribute to risk studies for urban planning instruments. She has also been consultant for the World Bank and ICOMOS, and lecturer of territorial planning on territorial planning and natural hazards in graduate programs at universities in Santiago and Valparaiso, both in Chile. In addition, she conducts independent research on urban and community resilience, disaster capitalism, vulnerability, among other disaster risk reduction topics. Thanks so much, Claudia, for being today. I give you the mic.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to this session. I will try to share my screen to present briefly. Okay, what I will like to share to you is about emergent responses to disasters. And we'll be talking about two main cases. One disaster related, an earthquake, the earthquake that occurred in 2010 in Chile. And we referred regarding emergent responses to mainly emergent groups. This term was primarily defined by the Disaster Research Center in Delaware, maybe 40 years ago, I think. And they defined some typology of organizational responses to disasters. They talk about old and new structures and old and new tasks that organizations develop when a disaster occurred. We will talk about the fourth type, that the emergent kind of organization that is characterized for being spontaneous, mainly formed by volunteers. They have, or they start with an informal organization, but they are changing with time. They characterize also by self-coordination and collective action. They are flexible, and normally they are ephemeral. I mean, they work regarding one objective that is like, for example, to provide aid after an earthquake or after another disaster, and when the objective is fulfilled, they disappear as an organization. So we will talk about emergent responses after the earthquake occurred in 2010 in Chile. It's known as the 27th of February earthquake. And these kind of graphs are based on my dissertation from the master that I made at UCL. And it collected responses from interviews and also an online survey. We collect information from the first month after the disaster, and the responses were divided from those occurred immediately after the disaster, the 27th of February, then 1 week later, and then 1 more month after the disaster occurred. And as you can see, the main responses were linked with family responses, individual and family responses, and others. The other organization important during the emergency was the organizations among neighborhoods of each area of a city that I analyzed, which was San Pedro de la Paz in the central south of Chile, near Concepcion. And those organizations were more important than others, that, for example, groups where the people regularly participate, like, for example, sports clubs or the elderly clubs or others. So the neighbors were together and started working collectively after the disaster, mainly to protect themselves from some kind of looters that they thought they would come to their houses to invade them. This was the main reason in the first place, but as you can see, they after started organizing other activities to help the community, so they became friends. And as they said, if a mother of anybody had problems or is working and the child has finished the school or something, any of us goes to picking up. And they decided that there was the positive part of the aftermath of the disaster. It is interesting because after 10 years of this kind of informal organization that disappeared soon after the earthquake, now during the COVID emergency, some of those groups have resumed and start working collectively again. The kind of thing that, or the problems faced by the community in a collaborative manner that emerge from the survey mainly is that, for example, the lack of drinking water, the lack of other kind of basic services like power of electricity, the access of food, the access to medical supplies, and others. But also it is relevant to consider the first reason that they decided to group for, that it was to fight or to protect from eventual delinquency or looting. It was like more a rumor than a reality, but that was the reason that in the first place lead people to organize themselves. It is important to understand that that kind of emergent behavior was translated to space because it was mainly in the small villages or small group of housing came by alleys at the local scale in the Villa San Pedro and other places where some other alleys or little groups of housing were located, like close neighbors, or they decided to close the streets, both in the extremes of the alleys. So they say, for example, our organization started closing alleys spontaneously. Then the neighbors' leaders got concerned about health, vigilance, and food issues. So they shared food, they shared medical supplies, they shared the taking care of the kids and other kind of activities. And they were related to other kind of groups that emerged from the social networks, mainly from Twitter, but in the first place from Facebook groups. There were a lot of Facebook groups that emerged after that disaster, and some of them had near 1 million fans. But soon after, like at the end of the 2010, most of those groups disappeared. So it's a characteristic from the emergent groups. Those groups in social network were related to other, for example, the neighbor groups I mentioned before, and the collective actions took place independently from the authorities that had to take care of the people after the emergency. They had some connections, but mainly the connections were inside the groups from the community. And there were other interesting things that appeared at that moment, and they have work done after that, is that some spaces in the community were very important in the aftermath of the disaster and during the first month after the emergency, that we can consider as the emergency period. Because in San Pedro in particular, the lack of drinking water lasts almost the first month. So, for example, there is a lagoon there, and that lagoon serves as a source of water that they use for cleaning, for cooking, or for many purposes. And there were also open spaces that after that they are understood as multi-purposes places because they serve as meeting point when evacuation, water reservoir for emergency, the recreation, environmental mitigation, etc. The example in the bottom left part of the figure showed a project in another place. This is in Haiti, to serve as also as a meeting point, and a safe place for evacuation when a disaster occurs. So we can consider as planners or as an architect, for example, these kind of places for multiple purposes, very important for community resilience. Here is another and many different examples. There is a Minga, there is a traditional emergent response, and that occurs normally in the Chiloé in Chile, but it is present also in many parts in Latin America. It normally involves family and neighborhoods. It is characterized by a sense of reciprocity because food, drink, and dance, for example, are provided in exchange of aid or for building or relocating housing or community buildings. This is an example of a house being relocated, and there is also, for example, a school or a public building translated by sea. And we also have observed emergent responses to COVID-19, which we can consider like a slow disaster. Many of them related to food, which in Chile and other places in Latin America we know as olla común or collective pots, where anonymous individuals, emergent or groups, grassroots organization, professional groups, activists, and others have promoted collective response aimed to tackle the pandemic and also the neoliberal model by cooking together, but it's not, the collective pots is not a new response. It is a popular and grassroots organization that has been observed during the 80s, for example, in the while the dictatorship, after a massive economic crisis in the 1982, and after that, where some economic crises are linked to the social and territorial deprivation of some groups. It has a territorial organization. It is also a space where
someone can hear me? Mai?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I guess Claudia is having problem with her connection. Let's wait a little bit.
Mhm.
Let's wait some seconds to see if Claudia can reconnect. Otherwise, what she was saying was very interesting about the neoliberal history in Chile. Yeah, she's finally out. Probably she will try to connect again. Okay, to honor the time, I think Nguyen, we will. I will ask you to wait a second, Nguyen. I'm going to start introduce you.
Okay.
And then we will see if Claudia can join us at the end to end her presentation. Okay, Nguyen Rodríguez Barrera is architect by the Instituto Superior Tecnológico José Antonio Echeverría in 2015, curator of architecture and industrial design of the Cuban Art Factory. He's founder of the Cuban architecture studio Bastión of the Common. He also teaches classes of architectural and urban design and at the Technological University of La Habana, José Antonio Echeverría. He has curated exhibitions such as the Espiritismo Cubano. Correct me then, Nguyen, if I tell him well. Platform of Local Architecture, School of Architecture in Revolution and Ways of Saying. It works on the issues of housing, public space, resilience, and architectural thinking. He holds the Serrano Camargo Award from the FPPA in 2016 and the first prize from the Creative Space Contest in 2016 as well. So I give you the mic now, Nguyen, to start. If you want to share a presentation, you can do it. Otherwise, not a problem.
Thank you, Vicente. Thank you for invitations. Good morning, everyone here in Cuba, Latin America, and good afternoon for everyone who is here us from Europe. So I want to make some reflections about probably a point that was explained before in your presentation. I'm going to try to speak and characterize the situation in Cuba in face of vulnerability, risk, and hazard, but also to see how at least respond from the government, from architect, and from technical positions. It's interesting because Cuba have a lot of experience in face of different natural disaster. It was explained before, this natural disaster focus in the normal problems or regular problems that our cities are having from several different decades before. To explain what is this hazard that we have in Cuba for the geographical position. So we are an island, so this is difficult. Some of them of this hazard that we see here in Cuba, and gusting winds, prolonged drought, intense and prolonged rain, floods, sea penetrations, heavy swell, earthquakes and tsunami, pool-resistant flood, erosions, sliding landslide, cave, the swollen rivers, the mountain torrents and the flood, sea level rise, and wet even extreme tornadoes. Of course, we have contaminated water, soils, and forest loss erosion. Health crisis now like the COVID. Probably the most fragile scenario in Cuba are the coasts. Signs of erosions, accumulated deteriorations in the main element of coast protection. Some experts always explain that Cuba entire island is the coast zone, and that gives you the idea how to work. In your presentations, you were talking about these 4 moments: prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery. This is really interesting because Cuba in the last 60 years create a system for not specific for hurricanes, because we have each year hurricanes, and in the last decade that hurricane they are bigger and bigger, and in the moment some decade before they only pass in the occidental area, in the west area, but now that changed with the climate change, and that it happened in the east too. And Cuba created a system of the civil defense to protect and to create actions, but not in the construction way, it's in the protection way to the human life. And that's really interesting because they have a system to prepare populations in that way. And in this moment, the perception of risk in Cuba about that is really interesting. The response of these different hazards in Cuba, I think we have to start to talk about the governmental answer. And in the 2015, the government, the Minister Council created the life tax, la tarea vida. It's a response answer from the climate change. And that create like some aspect to work in the different moment from the years to 2020, 2030, 2015, 2010, and 2100 to create different action. The first they do is pouring in a map the vulnerability in the different area in Cuba, but also create actions in the municipality, create action in the province, and create action in the, and that gives you the idea that we have a plan, and we have to try to understand that plan, but also create action inside them. It's interesting because this is a governmental task, but it was created by scientists, architects, different actors of the society. Sometimes this moment, this phenomena are seen. We are looking like only like a disaster, but also we can see that like the opportunity, because it's the moment that we have the focus of the decision making that putting the focus on in this vulnerability area, in this vulnerability population, and it's the moment to acting, because in this moment we have resources, in this moment we have the attention. We can use this situation not only to solve the problem that this phenomenon can do, but also this other problem that will be having in our city. And in that case, architects and different organizations can be really use it. In Cuba, when we, in this moment, in the university and in the way that we think in the future construction, we have to think in all this risk, but also not only in the technical way. Some engineer or professor always think about we have to calculate the winds conditions to create more strong wall, more foundation, and that's really interesting. But also we can use it to rethink living a new kind of the spaces. The 20th century with the modern movement was a moment to create typologies, like define, this is a house, this is a hospital, this is a... The typologies are dying, and that is a really good tools to create new spaces can to transform. What happens if a space can be transforming when you have a flood. I'm thinking right now in Malecon, probably the most famous space of Havana, the most famous public space of Havana, but it's really vulnerable, not only by hurricane, but also for wind from the north in December. And then we have a lot of heritage buildings from the end of the 19th century, but also we have people living in pretty bad conditions. We have really bad conditions of the building, really people, we don't have a lot of money, people living in really small meter. So solve the problem of the Malecon is not only solve the problem of the flood, it's also solve the problem of the housing, solve the problem of the economical participation. So if we're thinking like a system or this solution, I think that's the way for the future. We have a problem in Cuba, it's the self-construction. A lot of people observe, this is not only Cuba, it's in Latin America, but we don't have a technical expertise in the people who is building in our city, and that creates, of course, some risk and so vulnerability in this event. So how we can use that knowledge, thinking about collective intelligence, and try to prepare that these people who is building getting better. This is really difficult because one of the organization that has been working in Cuba for several decades is PNUD, and they explained like the they've been experienced with perspective from different part of the world coming here and teaching people how to build different technical solutions. The difficulty with that is when you have economic situations and people have to choose between, okay, this is the best way, but I don't have the money for that, so this is what I have right now. So how also thinking about the time. This solution is temporary, but how to think how no focus in that particular solution to thinking how as a system. In Fábrica de Arte Cubano, the Cuban Art Factory, who is a multidisciplinary laboratory, in the 2 years ago, we prepared a workshop with a student and independent architect to think about hurricanes, because in September of 2000, I remember 16 or 17 probably, the hurricane passed from Havana and was really tough. But when we were thinking about that, about all the danger, or the consequences of the hurricane, we also think about what happened with all the waste that the hurricane left in the city. What happened with the trees fall, what happened with the storm from the sea, what happened with all the garbage. So thinking also to see all this waste not like something that you, how can you reuse that material? We find that Cuba, the system in time of hurricane is perfect. The other day, everything is clean, everything is perfect, but what happened with that? Well, they drop it, they don't use it. So we're thinking how we can use that element for, to use it for public spaces, for construction, or this material. So I think this is how to think not only this, how the timeline. I like always the timeline to explain when we have in peacetime. It's not actually peacetime because you have all this situation that you was explaining in your diagrams with economic situations, migrations, political tensions. But in this moment, how to think as a system. Also, this moment when you are having this event, how do you respond, this fast response, but also using this crisis moment. For me, that's really important. It's really important how do you use this crisis moment to solve not only the problem, the consequences of the event, also some problem of the city. So thank you, Vicente, for the invitation and waiting for the dialogue with the other colleagues.
Thanks so much, Nguyen. Very interesting point about this moment of action. We have seen something similar in other cases as well. It's definitely disaster are also an opportunity to change the things how normally are done. Now I'm going to introduce Mae Durant Vidal. Lorena. Okay, Mae is an architect by ETFA Madrid and co-founder of ZooHaus and teststudio.org. ZooHaus is a networking platform born in 2007 in Madrid, mixing up interests related to the fields of architecture and urbanism. ZooHaus develops the research and prototyping project Inteligencias Colectivas, or collective intelligences, in collaboration with local agents in more than 12 countries. Inteligencias Colectivas has been awarded with several prizes, such as Arquia, Proxima, and has been exhibited in the Museum of Art, Modern Art, in New York, and at the MAK in Vienna, MAC in Vienna. On the other hand, teststudio.org is a creative cell of women architects where she developed our urban projects to promote social resilience. She has developed seminars and workshops at international architecture and creative programs at Pearson's, the New School of New York, the European Institute of Design, Madrid, ENDA in Bangkok, UNIVE in Santo Domingo, UNI or UNI in Lima, Venice Architecture Biennale, and the Spanish Cultural Centers in Lima, Santo Domingo, and Santiago de Chile. Thanks, Mae, for being today here, and I give you the mic.
Thank you, Vicente. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for all the people that are here and also listening. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Do you see the image in large size?
No.
No, it's all black now. It was during a moment it was there, but then disappeared.
Now it's black?
Yeah, now it's black.
Okay, I'm going to try it again.
There it is. Very good.
Okay, so now it's okay.
It turned black again.
Okay, so I'm going to, sorry, I'm going to, I don't know why, just a moment.
Okay, no problem.
Hmm. No, I don't have two I don't have two monitors. It worked before, I don't know why. Okay. Do you see it now?
Yes.
Because I changed the format.
Okay.
Okay. Is it okay now, right?
Yes, yes, we see it.
Okay. Okay, so I'm Maya. I'm in representation of ZooHaus platform. As you said before, Vicente, ZooHaus, we are a networking platform. This is like the image of all the people connected to the platform. We started in 2007. In Madrid, different Spanish architects, different studios with different concerns about architecture and urbanism. And we also, from this platform, we created in 2009 the project Inteligencias Colectivas, that can be translated as collective intelligences. It is a research and prototyping project. I don't know. Oh, sorry, because it's not working in the correct speed. Do you see now the title of the project, right? Okay. Inteligencias Colectivas, Collective Intelligence is a research and prototyping project that ZooHaus platform developed since 2009, as I said. I think it's, I feel that maybe Inteligencias is not focused on maybe on risk or disaster or emergency scenarios, but we have been all these 10 years working with people and observing and listening to many different, not at all designers or technicians, but people that live in different parts of the world. And Inteligencias Colectivas tries to collect all the knowledge that we have been like close in many places in Latin America, but also in different parts of Europe and Asia too. So I think it can be a powerful tool related to resiliency because it's a platform where you can see how people build their own cities in different ways, sometimes more physical, sometimes more in the management or the processes related to complexity in the cities. But I think this is maybe the link between the project and all the important topics that you're learning. That can be a way of, I would like to share the way we look at the Latin American cities through this project, Inteligencias Colectivas. So every region of the world has its own catalog of construction techniques adapted to environmental conditions, shaped by their social and technological realms. These techniques are becoming unseen and gradually discarded under a globalized standardization of processes and conception of progress. Citizenship agreements, self-made devices, and half-breed techniques are pure, like, open code knowledge, taught by imitation and improved through years of trial and error experimentation. That's what we really love to collect. But this knowledge is not considered valuable in professional contexts, and in most professional contexts related at least with design and architecture. So we believe that these human creativity manifestations can be used as inspiration and learning, considered as projectual assets to architects, to urban planners and designers, to improve the perspective on cities' future developments. To summarize, Inteligencias Colectivas is a design and research open tool, because the platform is open to any person that wants to use the knowledge that we collect there, that brings together all these real-life examples of smart constructions and hybridize them with contemporary needs through cutting-edge prototypes. Okay, this is a map of all the, well, not all, but some of the places that we have been developing the project through these years. We have developed like 20 on-site workshops in 15 different countries, like categorizing and taxonomizing these intelligent urban solutions, uploading and sharing them under Creative Commons licenses. Of course, ZooHaus develops the Inteligencias Colectivas project in collaboration with local agents, or we are focused on the knowledge of local agents, and we collaborate with institutions from all over the world, such as cultural centers, local communities, embassies, workers, universities, designers. We think that our actions have nothing to do with cooperation in its traditional conception. Inteligencias Colectivas is like theoretical but also practical methodology that consists in bidirectional teaching learning processes, taking feedbacks and organizing urban actions with local collaborators to implement what we have learned together first, making visible new or unexpected solutions from which everyone might benefit. So I'm going to make a brief introduction of what is the platform, Inteligencias Colectivas, the project, and the different how it's structured. So we have now we are upgrading our website, but it's inteligenciascolectivas.org. Now you can see like the old version. We are working in a new version. So you can see the catalog there. Well, all the information is collected here, like in a specific format, and you can see here the evidences or all the collective intelligence that we discovered all over the world. Another part of the project is the upgrade. Like drawings or manuals. It's a processed, edited, and technically drawn compilation of intelligences that let everybody to study their like detailed features and mechanisms. So you can see here all the small parts and how everything was built and constructed. The other part is prototyping. Is the like how we use these collective intelligences that we collected at the beginning of the process of the collaboration to be implemented to respond to different needs in specific communities. So for us, they are like critical architectures from a sort of evolved intelligences developed by Inteligencias Colectivas members in collaboration with, of course, local communities, experts, and institutions throughout building construction. So it's like self-construction prototypes, what you can see. And of course, the part that for us is the key of the project, that is the people. We call it human network, and it's for us this part of the project is an active knowledge network of citizen experts. All these categories are geolocalized in the last section in the open map. To broaden Inteligencias Colectivas project, we have selected one project that I would like to share because it is, I think, it's centered in a concept that I think it's very, it's related with resiliency in the city. That is the commons in urban areas and in territory. It's a project that we developed through 1 year back in 2014 for an exhibition in Museum of Modern Art in New York. And we used our methodology in Inteligencias Colectivas to think about an urban planning in Lagos, Nigeria. We did it together with 12 or 11 other teams that were also thinking about how these tactical urbanisms can help to the urban planning of mega cities in the world. Okay, so the starting of this is a picture of Lima, where I am right now. The curator of the exhibition to think about how can tactical urbanism deal with this this kind of rapidly urbanization in the mega cities of the world. He said that in 2030, the world's population will be staggering 8 billion people. Of these, 2/3 will live in cities. Most will be poor with limited resources. This uneven growth will be one of the greatest challenges faced by society across the globe. So we were selected because Inteligencias Colectivas tries, maybe in a different way, but tries to deal with these issues also, we think. So Uneven Growth Commission for MoMA and MAC, as you said before, brings together 6 interdisciplinary teams examining new architectural possibilities in Hong Kong, Istanbul, Lagos, Mumbai, New York, and Rio de Janeiro. And as I said, we were selected to work in Lagos. This is an image of the exhibition, of the different strategies we developed for Lagos, Nigeria. To talk a little about the context, nearly 30% of Lagos state is covered by water. Water is an asset, yet highly underutilized. With increasing impacts of climate change, heavy rainstorms and ocean changes result in frequently flooding, with the city's poor water drainage system fails to cope with. The myth remains that Lagosians are afraid of water, when in reality the most part of the life is on the water. To understand the context of Lagos, we propose 2 analytical and representation tools: a map and an evidence, as we call the intelligences, the evidences catalog. So in this way, with the catalog, we try to learn from Lagos. So the search, description, and cataloging of evidence help us understand both the global and specific context. A catalog of evidence, small fragments of reality, describe multiple social, economical, and political layers. These are classified into 2 groups, like technologies and materials, working communities, management strategies, urban spaces, and human network. All this evidence is used as a starting point for the design of the prototypes. Here you can see the different groups of that I mentioned. And also the key agents that we were in contact with to discover all this intelligence that we collected in the catalog. And here you can see the map, because we try to to visualize all this different evidence and knowledge that we found in Lagos. So the project employs like tactical urbanism, creating a network of spaces, not only evidences that act as infrastructure for the city, strengthening what already occurs there, of course. So for us, Inteligencias is only a way of narrating or telling what is already happening in the city. So it's a kind of way of looking at Lagos. And this map combined large-scale and small-scale urban interventions. These proposals work as like catalysts and impact the city at neighborhood and individual scales. These are some of the prototypes. We developed like different proposals, like for individual prototypes related with different topics, learning from this local intelligence and combined with also global technologies that we also try to represent and like different urban views. Some of them were related with energy, because the energy network provided by the state is only reliable for 3 hours per day. So independent of the size of the status, most homes, businesses, or facilities depend almost entirely on generators as the only reliable source of electricity. And so we were imagining in this process that in 2050, the abundance or dependence of fossil fuels is history. The city is mainly off-grid. Energy in Lagos is produced from renewable resources and distributed through a decentralized network. So these prototypes attend to this vision. Our energy prototypes combine public and private initiatives by transforming former infrastructures, shimmering solar panel roofs, wind turbines, biomass sources, and clean energy are the order for the day. For example, thousands of obsolete generator carcasses are recycled into new forms of architectures too. Other topic that we were working on was the water. Of course, Lagos has a great network of canals, totally polluted, that they don't use as like a network as a way of transportation. But this new city center within the ring is water, so it's a water city. So its urban characteristics are truly adapted, resilient as a contemporary African water city. It's a concept that also the other partner in Lagos, they were working on how to implement the city on the water. So our water prototypes work as social, energy, and storage and commercial stations all along the water canals as new public infrastructures. And also the other great topic that we are sharing is transportation. Because Lagos is like the traffic jammed capital with big transportation infrastructures, parasite by workshops, sports, commerce, and street food, and all kinds of goods. Now, in this plan, through the Inteligencias Colectivas, the means of transportation in the city are highly diverse. Cable cars, light rail canals, cycling routes, and pedestrian shopping streets provided zones of convergence for all Lagosians, new public spaces equipped with self-managed prototypes such as bus stops and boat docks, street vendor stations, bike repair points, plant vendor shops, and street markets for professionals. So all these prototypes are designed to boost, to promote, and improve the management of Lagos urban commons. So, of course, yes.
You have like 1 minute. Sorry.
Okay, no, just to say that we have a lot of projects in the Inteligencias Colectivas that I wanted to bring this because I think it was like a tension between the tactical urbanism and the scale of how this vision of the city can be used as for a more global urban planning. But yeah, after in the open conversation, we can talk about more the specific topics of the project.
Thanks so much, Mai. Well, a lot of information, pretty interesting. Especially, well, for me, that part about the management of cities, what you found this link with the topic of today, the governance, and how the different actors interact between them to govern, to manage the city and the problems that most of people have, and especially in the case of informal settlement. Another thing is what very interesting about that many don't consider valuable knowledge about this Inteligencias Colectivas. It's very interesting how you're rescuing all this sabiduría. I don't know how to say that, like wisdom in English. So pretty interesting. Now, I want to give the opportunity to Claudia to finish her presentation because we had a technical problem at the moment. So, well, I guess you are up to do it, Claudia. Well, you have 2 or 3 minutes to make some remarks, if you want.
Okay, thank you so much. I am sharing my
all yours.
screen. Just to let you know about the collective pots that I was talking about during the presentation, that it is a very extensive kind of initiatives. As you, let me show you. Let me know if you are hearing okay and seeing the screen.
Yes, everything okay.
Okay, thank you. Well, as you can see, there are a lot of initiatives all along Santiago. Here is the picture of Santiago and all along the country too. This is one of the web page that group a lot of collective pots for donations, and they have analyzed like almost 300 collective pots in Santiago. There are a lot of more all along the country, as I said, and they have been working along like 6 months now. And also I want to share that it's not only about food or eating together or sharing food. It's also about helping each other. It's about collecting gifts for children for Christmas, for example, or for helping with elements of personal protection, like face masks, other medical supplies, and a lot of things that have been needed during the pandemics. And we have seen that a lot of these kind of emergent groups are here to stay. We don't know how long, but they are group and regroup anytime is needed. And this is one of the characteristics of the emergent groups I mentioned before, for disaster or for any other need. That's it. I think we have time for questions. and very open to answer any of your questions. Thank you so much.
Thanks to you, Claudia. Also, very interesting topic, especially when you mentioned briefly about these social network actions, the presence or the activism, online activism through different platforms of the people, and also the importance of the public spaces. You mentioned it as well. And also, yeah, you talk about not with the exact word, but you mentioned something about the spontaneous governance. I mean, these communities organize themselves in the emergency of a disaster to get the medicines, the food, all the things that are not easy to get because of the situation. And that remember me the everyday life situation in informal settlements. I mean, they often have to organize themselves because there is a lack of presence of the state in general. But I found it very interesting. We can naturally extend our conversation. in this round of questions. We are going to move now to this round of questions that I already shared with you. I will start because we just finished with Claudia. I think it's good to continue talking with you, Claudia. I will ask you also to be very brief in your answers, like 2 minutes or something like that. But naturally, if we need to conversate, we will give some minutes at the end as well to make some remarks. Well, for you, Claudia, some of the questions that we discussed in previous sessions and talking with other colleagues as well is that, do you see that these emergent responses, this collective, that also is a sort of a collective intelligences, how the way they solve these problems during emergency, has also the power to transform upper, larger, or dominant societal structures. I mean, the formal things that exist in our cities, the governance, the formal or the most dominant way of governance in our cities, that sometimes is the reason why these people is marginalized. Do you think that these collective responses and intelligences can or has the power to transform these larger entities? What do you think about?
Okay, I would say yes. I think, for example, in Chile, after the 2010 earthquake, there were a lot of emergent organizations, and some of them are now structured in a more formal way. For example, there are a lot of NGOs that emerged after the disaster, and they have a formal structure now, and there are changing things like, for example, Procultura, and there are others like Proyecta Memoria or other kind of organization that started like an emergent organization, and they formalize their behavior and their structures and start working with another kind of organization, formal and informal. But also we saw it that after the social uprising in October 2019, and we have seen that how that collective intelligence has also turned into demanding major changes in the society, and now they have done a lot in the transformations that we have now having regarding the building of or the create a new constitution and a democratic constitution form provided by the a lot of elected members, and we are now living this process. So I am not sure if there is the people that meeting together or how has influenced the social media groups, for example, and the Twitter and network, Facebook and other kind of online media, because the collective intelligence are now very quickly formed and changed through these networks more than before. But there is the power of that people can change things, can change structures, and the structures are changing, are evolving all the time, I think.
Thanks, Claudia. Very interesting. I'm certainly agree with that. Mae? No, but I'm sorry, Mae. Nguyen. What do you think? Well, maybe you can start, or considering your what you say in your presentation about this moment of acting. It's a moment for act. Do you think this collective intelligences and organization at the very local level and the neighborhood level can also have the power, or they will have the opportunity, maybe looking at the case of Havana, but also consider other contexts? Do you think they could have the power to generate an opportunity also to transform the way that normally are being organized for good and, for better? microphone, Nguyen, your microphone. You have to turn it on. It should be a button. I think Nguyen is trying to connect the microphone. Nguyen, or you have another problem?
You try.
Mai, do you mind to continue while Nguyen is trying to solve this?
Yes, no problem. Should I answer the question that you made to him?
Or from your perspective about I'm not talking about the project itself, the Inteligencias Colectivas, but what the people is thinking is reinventing the environment around the housing, the neighborhood level. Also, I see in the case of Lagos, something much bigger that we saw in other cases in a previous session. Do you think this collectiveness, this that seems very local, very small in many senses, also because they are not considered valuable knowledge, so sort of marginalized intelligences? Do you think they have the opportunity or to rise up and to challenge the powerful structure that already exists in the city that sometimes are very wrong? What do you think?
Yeah, now Nguyen is here, but I answer first, right?
Yeah, please go ahead, Nguyen. Sorry, then you come. Okay.
Well, my answer is totally yes, of course. From my point of view, I mean, the resiliency in the cities is a very complex thing. So collective intelligence, I think it has to be a part of the solution for sure. But what? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we hear you very well.
Okay. But what I really think is that we need a mixture. It's like collective intelligence needs to be there, like always inside the public administrations, outside in the streets, in the civil society, like everywhere. We need to give value to the needs of the people and to our commons, our city commons, and put the life of the people at the center in all the spheres that are related with urban planning, I think, and design. But we need to have more opportunities of collaboration to experiment, because right now it looks like there are very important problems or technical issues that we cannot solve if you're not an expert but I think the key is the mixture of all the agents in the city, and have it very clear that the users of the public spaces in the cities need to be there always, because they know what they need and they always know the best way to solve what they need. Maybe they don't have all the resources, or maybe they don't have some technical knowledge. Well, us, everybody, but I think we need to rely on this mix, like design with many different agents. That's what I think. In Inteligencias Colectivas, we try to experiment how to deal with the variety of agents that we get together in different workshops and seminarios in the universities. We always think that this is a key thing, that to space to hear the other, to listen to the different solutions, to give value, of course, to the different knowledge that different people in the city have, and do not like hide any of them. Sorry. So for sure, I think the way of solving all the, I don't know, like all the goals that we have the next 10 years, for example, we only can do it with collective intelligence inside all the institutions and public administrations. We need to rely on this like collective way of doing things. I don't know. I think it's a key thing that should be like take it for granted, not doubt from it, I think.
Thanks so much. Our people, well, in the backstage of this is telling me that there are not many questions there are not many participations in the chat, so we will have more time to talk each other. So I invite you, if you have questions about questions about what Claudia is saying, and the same way Nguyen about we can interact, okay? And also we can make questions. If you have any questions, Claudia, to Mae about the projects, and please make that question. I will give the opportunity to Nguyen to talk, but he just left. Okay, Nguyen, do you listen to me, Nguyen? Hi, Nguyen. I think Nguyen has a delay. I mean, he received very late the things that we are saying. But when he was presenting, it was pretty good, actually. I don't know what to do. Hi, Nguyen. Hi, Nguyen. Yeah, it's activated. The mic is activated. And he left. Okay. I'm so sorry for Nguyen, because he was very participative in the last session. And what he was telling us was also pretty interesting. I don't know. Did you have? Hi, Nguyen. Give us a signal. Are you okay, Nguyen? Yes.
Thanks. Yeah. Now okay.
Okay. Open mic to you.
Internet is something difficult in Cuba. So to respond the question you before. So I was explaining that Cuba has pretty vertical structure until the last 2 years, when the transform the constitution. So with this new constitution, we have a new structure with most participation of the local governance, local municipality, province, and that creates a new situation. We are waiting right now for the law local development, and there is a new structure, a new movement that the government is supporting new project for the local structure. To give you an idea, before the new constitution, the local municipality can only use 1% of the receipts for the other go to the central government, and the central government give you everyone what they decide to need. That's create a condition for 60 years that the municipality and the local development and this initiative for the local and community was not supported, and people have not tools for that. With this new situations, they give you to different actors, entrepreneurs, activists, to create new project, and also to put in value that knowledge like collective intelligence. So now the scenario is different, so they can be more participating not only in the economical, cultural, and social way, also in this kind of topic like resilience and working with the community with all this topic of buildings, health care, and that's it. I think that's a good scenario. And also the third construction is a good field of battle, because yeah, a lot of people build the houses with the same possibility. They don't ask for an architect. They don't here architects. We are not important. People never call us. We are not important. They solve the problem by the same, and that's good, because they give you the opportunity to create the same way to live, and we know to go there to learn and to support with technique. So in this scenario, I think this project can be help us to create this connection and to create that network with them.
Thanks, Nguyen. If nobody else has a question to Nguyen, I would like continue to in the same conversation and asking you in the opposite way, in the other direction. Do you think that the government in Cuba or the governance in Havana somehow limit or diminish the emergence of these collective intelligences, or there is not, I would say, relationship between you know, I'm thinking about this formal knowledge, these standards, these patents, that are part of the formal or the formality of the governance of our cities and our countries in general. The first question was about how collective intelligence somehow challenge the larger structures or the way that normally are being doing. I'm now thinking about the formal governance, the markets, the things that happen formally in our cities. Are they ignoring collective intelligences, or they are trying to push them back, to reduce them, to eliminate them? Or I don't know if you see a sort of relationship between them, this larger and smaller. I don't hear you. Yeah, your mic is connected, but I hear very bad. Maybe if you get closer to the computer, because when you were closer.
Well, I think governance, the people that make decisions, they ignore every knowledge. No. Do you hear me now?
Yes, you say they ignore.
Do you hear me now?
Right? Yes.
Perfect. So I was saying that the making decisions, I just think this in general, sometimes they ignore all kind of knowledge from the city, from non-profit, from intelligent. They have their agenda, and they follow that agenda, and they know someone with good idea, they support it, but sometimes they don't create the places to know what are they doing. So our university around the world are full of the researchers about every kind of topic, and they don't they don't study. So why they're going to the community to know what they are doing. But that can change, of course. That can change if we put in value that knowledge, I think, this kind of event, and if we invite them. And we insisting to invite them to this kind of topic and show him what happened in different conditions. Have a situation now different around the world with communications that it's more easy to put it in front of the faces or the researchers because they don't have to go in the library. We can have but we have social network to create different communications to try to be more that experience. From different fields, but also they make decisions. But sometimes they ignore this kind of session. Now with this, I think with this new situation of local development, there is intentions to work with the local knowledge, but in general there is not a structure for that.
Thanks, Nguyen.
But I have a good example. One of our invited in the next event that is Jesse Gonzalez, that he's activist for the bike in Cuba, and he I think we have delayed.
Yeah, we have a little bit of delay of the image and your voice, but we hear you pretty well. Okay, I'm going to also.
Continue.
Do you want to continue? I think it's better when Nguyen start talking. He must continue and don't stop until the end, because otherwise we confuse. I mean, there is delay definitely. Related to the internet connection probably, and also, well, we have to say we are in the middle of a pandemic.
No, I just want trying to explain this little experience that one.
Okay. You end. Okay, good. Sorry for that. Well, you already probably read the question that I put in the program that I shared with you some days ago, which is related to the question to Nguyen. But we are approaching the end, and I want to open the mic if you wanna. Well, you can answer the same question if you want about how in the opposite way as well. If you the other question I can ask you as well that is related to the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. How do you see how the collective intelligences? I see it in the Target 11, the Sustainable Resilient Cities. some linkages, but maybe you want to refine something, or do you want to just make some remarks, or if you have any questions, please go ahead.
Yeah, related with what Nguyen was saying, I was thinking and your question about the previous question first, about if you think that the local, well, it depends on the different contexts, but if the local governments ignore this collective intelligence, I think just wanted to remark that it depends on where you put like the focus of that guides the plan, the action plan from the local authorities. So I think, of course, if you place like you see at the core that most of the people need to have a humanized city where they can live. Of course, collective intelligence needs to be part of the plan for sure, and you need to to mix agents and to listen to people. But if you focus on, I don't know, different things like I don't know, representation of the power, or that only like give more commodities to part of the people, blah blah blah, then maybe collective intelligence is not interesting. But it's I only wanted to remark that it's about which are your goals when you make any plan for any city, no? If you're a politician, for example, or if you are in charge of any, I don't know, entity, I think if you have very clear, and you are aligned, as you were saying in the second question, with the with the SDG, no, it's called in English, targets, I think there's no question about it. It's like, for sure, collective intelligence, I don't know, it's the answer, no, like to solve our problems in a collective way. So I think it's about the goals. I think it's about what you want to, what you want to achieve, no? So it's about that. I think if you don't go following and connect with different agents in the city and try to learn from collective intelligence, it's because your goal is not that we all live in a city for all, like a city where we all could live in a good way.
Okay, that is pretty interesting as well. I mean, well, you mentioned in your presentation that they put the people at the center, and you are asking about where we put the focus and put the people at the center of this. I remember this I connect this with the ideas of narrative. You know, in the governance also, we consider actors like people, the mayor, the city council members, but also laws. A law could be an actor, but also ideas. You know, the idea of climate change is not real, for instance, could be play a role in our narrative, and especially dangerously on the people that take decisions in our cities or make decisions in our cities. So I totally agree with that. Claudia, we are approaching the end. There is something, do you want to ask or make some remarks, or maybe answer also the same question?
Yeah, I think I wanted to answer the same question, because I think that if you want to make some influence or to have some influence on the government, what is happening is that you need to be formal. So if you don't want to be formal, to become formal, then you will work like in parallel, in another level, in a different layer than the government. And probably that is happening in Cuba, in Chile, and in many other parts. But I think that it's no problem with that. If you work collectively in a different layer than the government, you will probably have an influence, even though the government doesn't want to or ignores you. So I think it should be good and desirable that the government can connect with informal organizations. But if they don't, keep going. So keep doing. And I was reading a question regarding the climate change and how this affects our planet and how we can use that collective intelligence. And I remember that the new law to protect wetlands in Chile was rooted in volunteer groups, in environmentalist activists, and in other people that came to some congressman or congresswoman, and they convinced the parliament, they convinced the legal system that change. So I think I am this case, I'm a bit optimist, and I try to think that it is possible to make changes because we have seen that happening during the last 1 or 2 years. That's it, I think.
Thanks, Claudia. Yeah, we often, in disaster research in our area, we tend to emphasize the negative impact of disaster and all the vulnerabilities and stuff. It's important, but with Claudia, we have been working also collecting these emergent responses, these positive responses and resilience responses to disasters and risks. So I'm again, we are closing now the event. We have a few minutes, but I want to take them to do a special thanks to Peter Fisher for providing us and helping us with the technical solution to have this meeting and also to live stream it through the Institut for Architektur YouTube channel. Thanks so much. And also to Lorena Valdivia, who has been beneath and behalf supporting and doing all the backup during the organization of this event, as well as today helping us with the cortinillas. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Lorena. And again, thanks so much to Mae Durant for being here, Claudia González-Muzzio, and Nguyen Rodriguez Barrera. So we have to leave. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
And thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.